Hey there, folks. I feel like I'm tempting fate a little bit here, but I'm going to do some more retro CSS battles. I've had some glitchy issues with recording videos in my machine, but a little maintenance and things seem to be okay. So let's just see how it goes. We're looking at July 19th, July 20th, and July 21st of 2024. Let's do them. What do we got? I really am feeling like doing everything on the body is feeling right these days. So the question is how to do that. Kind of feeling like I want to do kind of gradient to do the big area there. I don't want to use any margins. Just want to do kind of a simple, straightforward big blocks of color. That's how you get that. And then it's background position that moves those things over. So I just moved over 100, and it looks like I need to move 50. And then I need to move down. I'll do this carefully. 60, 80. Looks like 90. Okay. And that's how you get that shape. You get that into position. This kind of gradient is the light blue all the way around, and then the dark blue for that final quadrant. And by changing the center of it, we get a different size. So if I do at 200 pixels, and really it's probably what, 300 pixels, we get that. And we need a y-axis because we've gone, it's too tall. That's too tall. How about 100 pixels? 110, 120, and that's a way to get that shape. All right, so I put that I put that down as the marker, and now I think I want to be very surgical about the dashes here, right? I could use an element, of course, but let's do a linear gradient from the side. And I just want to do precisely what I want, which is blue, transparent, blue, transparent, blue. And I want it not to repeat, and I want it to be a certain height and width. So we'll start at 0, 0, and then I'm going to give it a height and width. Do we know what the width is? I think we know it's 300. And what's the height? Probably 10 pixels. And then we do a bit of no repeat. And there's our gradient. Let's move it around. Too low, 60, 50, and that's telling us that our height is too shallow, 20 pixels tall, and then we move it over. I guess it's another 50 pixels, and then we've got that. And we're going to need another one. And really, we can't use the same one the way I'm doing it because it's not repeating. And we can't really use a variable, can we? Not in a way that is obvious to me. But we're going to do another one and then put that one in place, and that one just goes lower. 150, 250, there it is, 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 3. All right, so now we have two of those gradients that are kind of right, but not really right at all. All right. So this is the top of our code. Oh, and then not forgetting, we can also do an ampersand here, avoiding the real work of choosing these color stops, and I'll replace body with an ampersand and feel like I've done something. 50 pixels and 0 to start. All right, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. I'm going to set another color top there. 100, 10. What do we got? And that's like 120. What do we got? We're still too far away. Let's make this 200 and then make this wider. 10, 20, 30, 40. And then I think that makes this 160. Okay, and then the next set, we'll go 300 pixels. No, we'll go 300 pixels here. And then we're gonna make this less. How about 200? Okay. What do we look like? 180. I guess we need a 0 here. Yeah, we need a 0. That's what we need. Okay, and then 22. That could be right. Yeah, I think that's right. So that makes this 240. And then a last color stop 0. And I think that's it. Now, no repeat is pretty long and verbose, and it's a little less satisfying, but it will work. I will point out. All right, so that's the bottom one. Let's do the top one, even though the code is reversed from where they appear on screen. Okay, so 40 pixels 0. And that's not wide enough. Maybe we'll just try to eyeball it a little bit. 60, 80 pixels, and then 100 pixels. Oh, we're getting the color stop 100. 0, that needs to be wider. 140. And that makes us 160 pixels. And then a final color stop 0. I think that's it. Let's submit it, make sure we're 100%, and move on to the next one. Yeah, that's the next one. All right, next, what do we got? Oh, got a minify, got a unit replace, and submit. Those are my GitHub plugins available on GitHub and linked from this video, as all of them are. And that's the final score, and a better score than I've gotten in the past, I believe, because I did use 2 elements, probably with a shared gradient with a different background position, which would be another way to do this, right? Because these are very, very similar. But if you variabilize the color stops, you can make variations. Very useful in a web development sense to make a single thing and then set some variables, and it's a little different each time you use it. All right. So, feeling kind of Golden Gate Bridge vibes here. Let's do the same thing again. And let's create radial gradient, which is haven't had that happen in a while. The radiation, I don't know what that is. Radial gradient, and it's a circle, and it's a toppy circle. That means it's probably at 100%. No, it's at 50% 0, and then orange 0, or some amount. Probably it's 400 wide, so the radius here is less than 200, about 180 pixels, and then transparent. And I don't see anything. Why? Oh, because I have 50%, and what I want is circle at, like that. That's what I want. Seems a little light. How about 200? All right, and now let's move it. We'll move it over that much. Ooh, close, yeah? Not quite right. And that is with a width of 400. And it just makes it too big. So let's give it a width of 500. Does that do it? No, it does not. How about... Also, I think this circle is bigger. How about 250? Oh. And then make this 600. And then, so we're having to move things around quite a bit. Oh. And then no repeat. Oh. So that's way too big. And that's a problem. How about 225? Oh. Okay. Okay, and then that's too low. Minus 50 pixels. Well, I'm just trying stuff now. Is any of this good? I don't know. 150. 140. 30. And then down. Minus 10. Oh. All right. So, got to rethink. So let's do this circle, and we're just going to do circle. And we don't see anything. Why don't we see anything? Oh, because I'm missing a comma. All right, so there's our giant circle. Let's move him around. 100 pixels minus 100 pixels. And then we need a no repeat, because this is bigger, and that is a big bummer. So we're gonna need, so let's do something wacky like 500 pixels, 500 pixels. And then move him around more. Probably 2 minus 3, minus 2. We want that to be at the same level. 2.8, 2.7. And this is 200. And then we're just going to keep crafting these numbers. 250, 260. And how about 260 there? So you can see that happening. The question is, is there a way to do this? And I'm not sure there is. I don't remember my solution before. How about 2.7? No, 2.5, 2.5. Yeah, you can see that it's a problem. So, judging by the curve, are we too big or too small? So I'm just going to do little nudges. Little nudges. Until I see something that I like, and I don't like any of these. So these are all too big. So I want that curve to fit in there nicely. 3, 3, no, 2, 2, no, 3, 4. Is that 235 as well? It's close. 170. And then 230. And then how about 230 here? 225. Getting closer. So I feel like the right direction. But 165. And then another nudge, 20. No, 20. And then 20. 215. 25. How about 160? Oh, definitely frustrating. All right, so feels like this is not working out, but it also feels like it could change up very quickly. 15. How about 215? How about 205? How about 210? Ooh, that's close. How about 210 here? It's close, right? Maybe. All right, so that is with that width. Could it be 150 wide? Maybe. But I feel like really the meta lesson here is that this kind of sucks. This technique sucks until we know what those numbers are. And the best way to learn those numbers is to put a margin of 0 on the body. Create a paragraph element. Background of orange. Of this orange. There it is. And then let's craft this element. 1.8. So it's 180. Great. What's the height? Is it also 180? No, it is 190. How does this help us? Does this help us? Let's see. Let's do border radius. 0, 0, top and top. And then this is the key. 100 pixels, 0. And strictly speaking, we don't need the last number there. All right, how about 150? Ooh, close. How about 160? 40. 140 is the radius, but also that's a radius for a rounded rectangle. So maybe, so if we do that, what do we need to do? We can double his height. So his width is 180, and so if we just do that, well, that's funny. What if we change his width? Then we can use a box shadow. So we're going to change his width and double it. So what is that? 300 and then 160. No, I don't know how to double. 360. And then with margins, 0 minus 180. Okay. Then if I do that, then I get that. If I just do 0, no, I want 140, 0, 0, 140. Okay. And then if I do a box shadow, 100 pixels. Actually, probably it's the whole width, so it's probably going to be like 400 pixels. 0 orange. And I need the additional 140 pixels. There it is. So that is a way. Is it great? I'm not writing home about it quite yet. But it does look like a pretty clean edge. So we're going to go with it. We can undo those margins maybe later. We might not. We've spent our time on the hard part here. Conic. We're on conic gradient. My Swiss Army knife. Actually, you know what we could use? We can use the little used by me repeating linear gradient. I don't use those enough in here. 90 pixels, and it's yellow. 90 pixels, 90 degrees, and then it's yellow for like 40 pixels, and then it's transparent for like 60 pixels. Background repeating linear gradient 90 degrees, and we got nothing. Why? Because I don't have correct color stop. 0, there they are. So with the repeating linear gradient, you need, I can't remember if there are exceptions to this, but you need color stops that are going to repeat for you. And that seems to be right on, and that makes me super duper happy. So if we set that repeating radial gradient with the correct height, width, and repeat, so we want to no repeat, and for now we'll set it at 0, 0, and we're going to give it a width. We can't see it yet. We got to move it down. 50 pixels, and then we need to move it over. How about 60 pixels? You can kind of see it. You can't really see it. Sorry about that. Let's add orange. Now you can see it. So let's make it taller. There it is. And then let's make it wider. 2, 3, and I think it's the Brits who say Bob's your uncle. There it is. I don't know if they really say that. Might be way out out of fashion. But that is a solution to that problem. No conic gradient, no, because you would need a linear gradient anyway, but we take that repeating linear gradient, which is going to repeat 40 pixels of yellow and then 20 pixels more of the transparent, etc., etc., etc. Now we could put the orange here, but I will point out that if I do that, I don't get it all, right? And that actually is pointing out that the width could be 2.8, 2.8, right? Because that's actually the size. We could also do, I'm not going to do percentages. You could also use percentages. You could use, now there may not be a precise number that will work for that, but I'm going to undo that. And then minify and unit replace. And that is a solution. So we got an element that is wider than the page, and then the caveat there is that in a normal site you would need to do an overflow hidden to prevent a scroll bar from then occurring, because you got this paragraph element that you pushed off screen, and the browser would like to say, hey, that's wide, and don't you want to go look at that? And you don't. In this case, for the purposes of an illustration, you don't. So overflow hidden is what we do for that. All right, that's our second one. So we did the first one, we did the second one. Did I do a final submit? I was talking so much, I don't even remember whether I did. Let's do it. And that's it. All right. Next. What is this guy? So my thoughts always go, I think we all know this, to the conic gradient. But what I think, maybe the nested template is what we go with here, because we have this nice area where we have just that blue, just this blue, and then we need to fill it in a little bit. So how do we fill it in? What's the correct way to fill it in? I'm going to put the other color on. Yeah, there it is. With margins, I will stretch or squeeze the body element so that it works. 90, 91, 92. Okay, now what? Let's do a conic gradient. It might be all conic gradients in this case. The question is how many and exactly how. So I'm going to do this color 75% and transparent, which gets you that. If I put it in the top corner with a background position of 0, 0, and I give it a width, then I get a cross type affair. If I give it the right values, then, which I think this is correct, if I add an at value, I think, I'm kind of doing this in reverse order. 60 pixels, 60 pixels. I should have chosen the at first, but I think I can get away with it. How about 75, 75? And then that makes this 40, 30, 25, so 125. So that's across. And then we get the hard part. Isn't that great? So the question is, what's the simplest way to get these little squares? And is there one? I would like to use an efficient conic gradient to get it. I fear there isn't one. Not the way that I sort of really like this conic gradient, and so I think today I am feeling like an element. So here's what I want to do. I want to make a little square. So there's a little square. And his margins we're just going to have to set to 0. Not very efficient. No, it's not. All right. And then let's do a box shadow. We're going to set color of that, of the dark color. We're going to box shadow. And then even better, let's do it in black. So we won't, we'll comment out. That's rational. A reminder that CSS does not allow single line comments. That would be SCSS, one of the great things about SCSS. But it will allow you to do this. So let's do 50 pixels, 50 pixels to see our first box shadow. Already looks a little bit small. In fact, it lines up nicely. It's not in exactly the right spot, but it's lining up nicely with the other dark spots there. So I think it's 30 by 30, or it might be 25. Let's try 30. Too big. 25 by 25. Okay. So there he is. Okay, so let's move him over. Probably it's what, 75? Yeah. 75. And then what's the next one? 50 pixels, 75 pixels. There's another. And then let's do the math. 150 pixels, 75 pixels. No, wrong. How about 100? There it is. Next is 75 pixels, 100 pixels. That's the next layer. And then another over again, 100 pixels. 100 pixels? No, 125. Keep getting these wrong. That's all right. And then one last one, which is 100 pixels, 125 pixels. And there it is. So now we actually don't need a background on him at all. He will produce a box shadow without having any color or contents, because he's a block level element and he's got a size. I've given him a size, so he works. And that's the way we do that. Let's submit. Kind of a nice solution. I definitely do enjoy one like this that's all conic gradients or linear gradients. There's also ways to do grid with linear gradients, which is really fun. You can do a checkerboard and only use 2 linear gradients at a 45-degree angle, and you do the pieces and parts, and it's super fun. You can work that on a graph paper. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let's minify and unit replace, and that is my solution. Let's hope for 100% match. Yeah, still 100% match, great. Okay, once again, that was the 19th, the 20th, and the 21st of July, 2024. Super fun. Take care out there. Be good to yourself. Be good to each other. Go make a web page, okay? Okay, bye-bye.